I never expected that one shocking night would turn Ngozi's life upside down. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension, the shadows stretched long into the night. I remember the smell of rain on warm asphalt, the way it made everything feel alive, yet fragile. There was a whisper in the wind, a warning. I could feel it in my bones, a trembling anticipation that made my heart race. My family was gathered at home, each face a mask of concern, my mother's tight smile, my brother's restless fidgeting. We had been waiting for news about my father. He had gone missing days ago, swallowed by the city, leaving behind questions that churned in our stomachs like lead. Every tick of the clock echoed in the silence. The hum of streetlights outside cut through the darkness, reminding me that life continued beyond our four walls. I was desperate for any word, clinging to hope like a drowning person to driftwood. What more could I lose? My friends had been supportive, yet their pity felt like a weight. Their eyes would linger too long, their offers of help too empty. Then, just as I thought despair had wrapped its iron grip around my throat, the door burst open. A stranger stood there, soaked and shivering. His eyes were wide, darting nervously. "I have information about your father," he gasped, clutching a crumpled envelope that he dropped at my feet. I could hardly breathe. My heart thundered in my chest, my hands trembling as I reached down to pick it up. The world narrowed to the moment, a fragile thread of hope and terror. "What do you know?" I demanded, my voice barely a whisper. But instead of answering, he stepped back into the swirling shadows of the night, looking over his shoulder as if the darkness itself was closing in on him. I couldn't move. The weight of the envelope felt like a lead weight in my hands. What secret did it hold? The room went still. My family's eyes were glued to me, the unspoken question hanging in the air. What had he seen? What if he held the key to everything we were searching for, or the beginning of something worse? My heart dropped. What was in that letter? My fingers grazed the surface, sensing the tremor of uncertainty in the air. I hesitated, caught between the fear of what I might discover and the desperate need to know. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me, and the world outside seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The envelope trembled in my hands, a silent scream echoing the maelstrom of emotions within me. The quiet of the room was punctuated only by the sound of my mother's shallow breaths, her worry a palpable presence that settled like fog. I could feel my brother's anxious shifting beside me, the tension weaving through us like a dark thread. For a fleeting moment, all I could do was stand there, frozen between dread and anticipation. What if this contained the answer to our worst fears? Or perhaps it was a thread of salvation, a lifeline thrown in the turbulent sea of uncertainty. My mind raced, conjuring images of my father in distress, lost among the bustling streets of our city. Memories of his laughter echoed in my heart, a sound that felt impossibly distant now. "Open it," my brother urged, his voice tight with urgency. "We need to know, Ngozi," that I swallowed hard, steeling myself for whatever lay ahead. With shaking fingers, I tore the envelope open, the sound sharp in the thick silence. Inside was a single piece of paper, frayed at the edges. Slowly, I unfurled it, my eyes scanning the hastily scribbled message that I saw him. He was taken by someone. I don't know where, but I saw them. My breath caught as my heart raced. The note didn't end there. The ramblings turned more frantic, detailing a location, a warehouse at the edge of town where the shadows seemed to swallow all light. My pulse quickened as hope intertwined with dread. Could this lead to my father? Or was it a cruel trick, a false lead that would lead us further into despair? Where does it say? My brother asked, leaning closer, his voice a desperate whisper. Somewhere a warehouse. I was hardly aware of the words spilling from my lips, as if a dam had broken within me. Those simple letters tied knots in my stomach. A location, a chance that shimmered just beyond reach. It's not far from here, I added, the weight of both hope and fear clashing violently within. Just then, the world outside shifted, a distant siren wailing, cutting through the haze of uncertainty. My heart raced anew, my thoughts spiraling. Should we go? Would it be safe? Each question fed into the concern of what we might find. The thought of what lay behind that warehouse door made me hesitate. Maybe we should wait for more information, my mother suggested, her voice soft yet taut with worry. We can't chase shadows, Ngozi. Not without knowing more, but the fire within me blazed hotter. I nodded slightly, my chest tightening. But what if he's there? What if we can save him? The words spilled out before I could contain them, the urgency that fueled my thoughts now guiding my actions. My brother and I exchanged determined glances, a silent pact forged in the shared desperation of missing our father. Despite our fear, a flicker of resolve ignited in my soul. I couldn't ignore the thread of hope woven through those words. If there was even the slightest chance. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the living room was enveloped in brief darkness. It sent my heart racing, but when the lights flickered back to life, they revealed the panic on my brother's face. Did you hear that? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. My breath caught as a noise emerged from outside, a rustling, scuffling sound, as though someone was lingering just out of sight. A chill ran down my spine. Stay here, I said, stealing a glance at my mother, who was now visibly shaken. I'll check it out. No, Ngozi. You can't go alone. My brother's grip tightened around my arm, fear etched in his features, but my heart was pounding in my ears, and the boundary between fear and urgency faded. I needed to know if my father was truly at stake. As I stepped toward the door, a decision forged in resolve, the world outside felt heavy with untold secrets and shadows. Just as I was about to open it, a sudden crash sounded from the alleyway. My heart raced. Wait. I hesitated, but the urge to uncover whatever was lurking out there pulled at me. My brother's voice faded into the background as I opened the door, stepping into the unwelcoming night. The air was thick, charged, and a sense of impending change brushed against my skin. Outside, darkness cocooned everything. The familiar street was transformed, a maze of uncertainty. Just then, I heard a different voice call out from the shadows, low and urgent, help. Please. The plea hung in the air, piercing through the veil of fear that gripped my heart. I knew that tone all too well, it was the sound of desperation. Was it real? Was it another trick, or was this someone else in need? My brother shouted from behind me, Ngozi. Don't, but I couldn't turn back now. With one foot in the shadow and one still on the threshold of my old life, I took a step forward into the unknown, eyes narrowed against the darkness, ready to uncover whatever lay ahead, knowing that this path could lead us into both light and shadow. What awaited me was still shrouded in uncertainty, but one thing was clear, I was on the edge of a revelation that would change everything. The night crawled with a restless energy, each step I took echoing into the darkness. The voice, fragile yet demanding, invoked courage and dread in equal measure. Help. Please. The sound soared over the shadows, igniting my instinct to serve, even amid the chaos that enveloped my mind. Ngozi, please come back. My brother's voice trembled with a blend of fear and worry, but I felt propelled forward, the distress altering my perception of reality. It was as if the air around me thickened, both heavy with potential danger and the slight shimmer of hope that someone in need could be closer than I imagined. Stay where you are. I yelled back, trying to sound confident, though doubt gnawed at my insides. As I receded deeper into the night, my heart thudded like a drum in my chest. I followed the call, grounding myself in the rhythm of desperation, each cry resonating through my core, thawing the barricades that fear had erected. The alley was narrow, swallowed by shadows, the scent of damp concrete mingling with something familiar that sent a pang through my memory, an echo of childhood wanderings where nighttime brought adventure and comfort. Where are you? I called, My own voice an unsettling whisper amid the stillness. The walls of the alley loomed tall and distant, familiarity replaced by the shift in my surroundings. Help! Over here! The voice, wavering like a candle's flame, snapped my attention to a darkened corner where something shifted, a silhouette, broken and frail, crouching beneath the dim light of a faulty street lamp. As I stepped closer, my heart raced further, fear melding with concern. In the flickering light, I discerned a boy, no older than 10, hunched over and shivering. His clothes were tattered and worn, his hair matted against tears streaked down his face. "Are you okay?" My voice, soft and desperate, broke the tense silence. The boy's wide eyes met mine, glittering with confusion and vulnerability. "That I can't find my mom," he whimpered, each word seeming to fracture under the weight of despair. "They took her and now I'm all alone." At that moment, a slice of warmth pierced the frigid air. My instincts kicked in, horrified by the potential fate that lay before this young boy. "You're safe now. Let's get you home," I said, crouching to meet him at eye level, even as the panic within me surged like a wild gust of wind. But as I reached for his arm, uncertain of how to navigate this fragile moment, a sound ricocheted through the darkness behind us. A car door slammed shut, reverberating through the alley, followed by hurried footsteps. My stomach dropped, fear sliding like ice into my veins. Someone was approaching, someone we should not meet. "Quick! We need to hide," I whispered urgently to the boy, who nodded, wide-eyed. We scurried behind a set of riddled dumpsters, the smell wafting around us threatening to choke out the underlying warmth of my resolve. I peered out cautiously, the shadows dancing with uncertain light as I desperately scanned for signs of danger. The footsteps grew closer, edging toward our sanctuary of trash and fear. Panic clawed at my mind as voices broke through the brittle silence. A low murmur, angry and charged, just close enough to elicit immediate terror. "Nobody's going to find you." A rough voice spat, littered with venom. "Get in the car, or things are going to get messy." I recognized that tone, one that could bend steel. It pulsed with authority and malice. My pulse echoed in my ears as they emerged into my line of sight, men in dark coats, lurking like vultures poised for the fall of their prey. I recognized the emblem on the back of one, the crime organization that had once claimed our father, the very shadow I had been trying to unravel. The boy shuddered beside me, reaching for my hand, clinging tightly to the faint solace and safety I offered. "What do we do?" he murmured, trembling like a leaf against the wind. "That we can't let them take you. They'll find your mother," I whispered fiercely, the flames of protection igniting within me. In that moment, a flicker of courage unfurled itself. Whatever fate awaited us, I knew I couldn't back away now. It all hinged on the boy, the fragile thread that could lead to something bigger than ourselves. We had to outsmart them. As I held him tightly, I felt two conflicting emotions warring within me, fear for the boy's fate and a newfound sense of purpose that ignited my spirit. I peered through the cracks of our hiding place, not to merely observe the danger creeping toward us but to devise a plan. A flicker of bravery sparked. As I observed the men, an idea began to form, woven with the urgency of the moment. We could create a distraction. With each passing second, the stakes rose higher. My breath steadied as I locked eyes with the boy, the storm of action swirling inside me. "When I give you the signal, run like the wind toward my house, okay?" "It'll create a diversion," I stated, confidence stitching its way through my voice, but just as a plan began to solidify, a grip on my shoulder jolted me back to the moment, sending a renewed wave of terror coursing through me. The darkness swirled, and before I could process, I turned to face a figure looming nearby, the final tether between my old life and whatever horrors awaited me in this embrace of night. "Going somewhere?" The voice hissed, cold and menacing. The weight of recognition hit me like a punch to the gut. It was him, one of the men from my father's past, one who would stop at nothing to erase us. My heart sank, and with it came a sobering realization. The shadowy night was not merely hunting my father, it had found me, and what I had dared to protect was now spiraling out of control. I stood frozen on the precipice of choices, knowing that no matter what I did next, I could no longer turn back. The grip on my shoulder tightened, sending a dagger of fear deep into my chest. I felt the boy's tiny hand slip from mine, His breath hitched as he pressed closer to me, seeking the comfort I could barely provide. My mind raced, thrumming with the urgency of the moment, 1,000 thoughts colliding in a chaotic flurry. What had I gotten us into? Let him go. I shouted, a desperate surge of adrenaline fueling my voice. The menacing figure smirked, eyes gleaming with a chilling mix of recognition and delight. I see you've grown bolder, Ngozi, the man drawled, as if my defiance were merely a playful jest. But you're still as naive as ever. My heart surged. How did he know my name? Panic sprouted within me, churning wildly alongside my determination. The weight of my family's past pressed heavily on my shoulders. I had encountered darkness before, but this was a different beast, one that found me now, on the threshold of losing everything I fought for. Why don't you come back to us? He leaned closer, his breath ghosting over my face, a mix of condescension and challenge. I could sense the power he wielded, an invisible chain edging me closer to despair. You could be a valuable asset, child. We could protect you, your family, if you just complied. That a small voice broke through the suffocating tension, faint and fragile. She's not going anywhere with you. The boy's courage shone through his terror, breaking the spell of fear that had coiled around me. Together, we stood at the edge of an abyss, and somehow, I absorbed his bravery like a warm flame immigrating to a cold body upon dusk. Shut it. The man snarled, but the shadows in my mind wrestled with this spark of purpose. With a quick glance at the boy, a signal of solid resolve, I seized the moment. You think I'd ever return to the life that ruined my family? Think again. I shouted, a wall of defiance building within me. He chuckled, but it held a bitter edge. You have no idea what's at stake, he spat, scanning the alley as if to ensure no one else interrupted our grim encounter. But we can play this game all night. We'll find you, no matter where you run. And next time, he'll make sure your little friend doesn't get in the way. Before I could contemplate my next move, a commotion erupted. Distant sirens pierced through the chilly air, reverberating like a beacon into the night. A flicker of hope surged within me, but I knew it wouldn't protect us here. It demanded action, now. Run! I yelled abruptly, launching into survival mode, no longer frozen by fear. Without hesitation, I maneuvered us toward the back of the alley where the shadows thinned and the mystery of escape blossomed. Yet as we dashed toward a flickering corner of light, I felt the man's hand release its grip. My pulse thundered in my ears as I darted forward, heart racing as the sirens drew closer. I caught a fleeting glimpse of the men scrambling, their forms suddenly more degraded by the encroaching blue and red lights. Over here. I waved wildly to the boy, urging him to follow. Each frantic step drove us closer to the mouth of the alley. With the distillation of adrenaline, the raw need to protect coursed through me. We were not mere prey, we were entwined in a fight for survival, our collective will pulsing between us like electricity on a frayed wire. But suddenly, the ground under my feet sloped sharply, and I stumbled, hitting the pavement hard. Pain shot through my knee as I glanced up, gasping just in time to see the boy hesitant and a mere few feet away, his face pooled with uncertainty and fear as he lingered behind. Go! I shouted, the urgency propelling my voice like a force of nature. I curled my hand into a fist, willing power into the air between us. They won't take you. Trust me. But in that heartbeat, reality plunged deeper as the sirens screamed their final note and darkness loomed. The boy hesitated one last time. I saw the indecision in his eyes, and then something shifted. Before he could escape the grasp of fate, a shadow detached from the chaos, racing toward him. It was a familiar face, me brother, Richard, emerging from the darkness, eyes wide and frantic, reaching out across the void. Ngozi. He shouted, his voice slicing through the panic. Get away from him, now. Richard, no. He's with me. I screamed, both fear and desperation echoing in my tone, but the gravity of the moment bore down hard. Before I could react, Richard reached for the boy, grounding his urgency completely. The moment split the night, giving way to a flash of raw emotion that seemed to stretch infinitely, choices formulated in the blink of an eye, the boy's trust mingling with my brother's desperation, forging an intersection of hope and fear I had never anticipated, and then, the realization washed over me like icy, a profound understanding of what this meant for us all, and a looming question. What if our reunion meant that we were now tied irrevocably to the shadows I fought to escape? The streetlights flickered as I watched the two figures collide, each revealing their own vulnerability, while the darkness thickened around me, binding us together in an unexpected fate that I had yet to grasp. In the distance, the sirens faded into an unsettling quiet. My heart pounded as I stood, suspended in this crossroads of moments, realizing that the game had changed again. What awaited us beyond this tight grasp of night would unfurl in ways I could never have foreseen, and I was left with a chilling question: had I saved one boy, only to lose my brother instead? The silence that followed the sirens felt unreal, a heavy shroud pressing down on my chest. I watched breathlessly as Richard and the boy stood, locked in an uncertain balance. Their expressions mirrored the chaos swirling within me. Richard's eyes darted back toward me, the desperation etched across his face only deepened my dread. "Get back!" Richard's voice cracked, an edge of panic seeping through. "We need to go. Now." He was tugging the boy closer, his protective instincts clicking into place, but the boy hesitated, glancing back at me. In that fleeting moment, I saw the unspoken bond we had forged amidst turmoil, an invisible string tethering us together even as danger loomed. "Don't," I called out, my voice breaking with urgency. "He's not," but before I could finish, Richard grabbed the boy's arm, pulling him away from the crackle of the night. The look in my brother's eyes held a terrible certainty, and my heart shattered as I understood. He believed he had to choose. "Come on!" Richard shouted again, dragging the boy toward the street. It was as if he thought the shadows could somehow swallow me whole if he acted quickly enough. Alia iacta est, the die was cast, but in that moment, choices felt heavier than lead. "No. Richard, wait." But my words spilled into the void, unheard. Panic ignited a fire within me, propelling me forward as a rush of adrenaline surged through my veins. I burst from my spot, desperation urging my legs to move. I couldn't let him take that boy away. We had fought too hard to survive, too long to abandon each other. Now that I closed the gap between us, ready to pull them both back and unleash the words that begged to escape. How entwined we were, how tangled our fates had become. But before I could reach them, a commotion erupted further down the street. The distant shouts of officers pierced through the quiet, reviving our urgency like thunder on the horizon. Richard's gaze snapped toward the voices, his face paling as the shadows began to swell again. "We need to go," he hissed, fear taut in his tone as he instinctively pressed the boy closer to him. "No. Please don't take him," I pleaded, my words tumbling from my lips like a desperate chant. But in the heart of that frantic moment, I was blind to what Richard knew, to the threat that our tenuous situation represented, not just to us but specifically, to the boy who had become a part of our chaotic existence. Suddenly, my brother turned back to me, a fervent urgency driving his next words. "Ngozi. Think about what they can do. If you don't let him go." He paused, eyes wide, whispering fiercely, "They will use him against you. We can't let that happen." The flickering glow of streetlights began to pulse ominously, illuminating the boy's haunted eyes and the fear clenching my brother's jaw. I grabbed onto this reality, fought against it, grappling with the implications. Trust. Trust had been the cornerstone of my resolve, and suddenly it felt perilously thin. Yet, enveloped in the tension, I felt something shift within me, an ember of hope igniting through despair. Someone else emerged from the shadows, a stranger, but one whose presence radiated determination. A woman, tall and fierce, her dark hair cascading like a waterfall over her shoulders, stepped forward, her gaze locking onto mine. She seemed to navigate the thick shadows with an assured grace, and something in her stance whispered of strength. "Let them go," she declared, her voice ringing clear amid the chaos, delivering an unexpected shot of clarity. "I can help." Richard's grip wavered as he turned to face her, confusion battling with the instinctual need to protect the boy. "We can't trust me," she interjected sharply. Her piercing gaze held the weight of someone who had witnessed far too much and was determined to make a difference. You're not safe here, none of you are. There's a place for us, a safe house nearby. I can get you there. For a heartbeat, hope splintered through the darkness, flickering like a fragile flame ready to be snuffed out, but so much lay at stake, and my heart thudded painfully in question. Should we? Could we trust her? But then, as the sirens crested past, their screams reinforcing the reality of our danger, the boy stepped closer to me, a silent question glazing over his tiny features. The pain of parting echoed in my chest, but suddenly my decision surged forth. Richard, I breathed, we have to believe there's still a chance for us. Why yes, but, his words stuttered out, a mix of disbelief and desperation. But before he could voice the contradiction, the woman took another step forward. We need to move. Her voice was both commanding and soothing, fragmented with urgency. And in that moment, something shifted in Richard's demeanor. Understanding flared beneath the surface. Okay, he replied, his voice steadied by our dire circumstances. But we stick together. No one gets left behind. Together, I echoed, and for the briefest instant, the weight of uncertainty lessened, a fragile thread of hope began to weave us back together. And then, as unexpected as it was, we ran toward the embrace of shadows, toward safety, toward an uncertain freedom. As the woman led us away, I couldn't shake the thrill of fear that persisted in my chest. What awaited us in that safe house? Could it truly offer refuge from the darkness? Or would the revelations waiting around the next corner shatter every fragile promise I held on to? As we plunged deeper into night's embrace, the answers hung in the air, suspended in anticipation. The chaos of our escape melded with the darkness of the street, transforming each step into a frantic heartbeat reverberating through the shadows. I fell into a rhythm beside Richard, the boy between us like a flickering flame amid a suffocating night. Adrenaline coursed through me, pushing aside the suffocating dread that so often gripped my heart these days. As we rushed forward, I could feel the heaviness of Richard's gaze fixed on the woman leading us, her silhouette almost a beacon in the obscurity. I focused on her, hoping to draw strength from her unwavering resolve. Who are you? I managed to breathe, my voice barely a whisper, yet soaked in desperation. That I am someone who knows what it's like to escape the dark, she replied without breaking her stride, a steely determination set in her jawline. I've walked this road, and I know how twisted it can get. Fragments of an understanding emerged, a connection forged in shared pain, in the uncertainty of survival. What's your name? I asked, as if her identity could anchor our tenuous alliance. Maeve, she answered curtly, glancing back to gauge our pace. I won't let anything happen to you. Gnawing doubt bubbled at the periphery of my thoughts. But Richard's fingers tightened around the boy's hand, grounding me. Trust felt as thin as ice beneath our feet, yet here we were, pursuing a stranger into the unknown. Keep moving, Maeve urged, and I fought against the urge to complain about the strain on my legs or the rising fear gnawing at my gut. The distant wailing of sirens grew fainter but remained an ever-present specter amid our flight. Then, without warning, her steps faltered, and she gestured at an old building looming ahead, its dilapidated features swallowed by vines. In here, quickly. We skidded to a halt before the entrance, my heart racing as the shadows seemed to creep closer. With quick glances exchanged, we stepped inside, plunging into the cool darkness of what appeared to be a long-abandoned storefront. As we gathered in a huddle, Maeve wasted no time, her voice decisive. We need to barricade the door. The weight of those words settled heavily on my shoulders, and I rushed to help Richard shove a nearby shelf against the entrance. Once the door was secured, the silence within intensified, each breath resonating like a drum in the void. The boy pressed against my side, small and vulnerable, a stark reminder of everything at stake. I knelt beside him, feeling my heartbeat sink with his anxious breaths. Hey, it's okay, I murmured, seeking solace in my words. We're safe for now. Richard crouched down too, his brow furrowed as he examined the story, a mixture of concern and hope flickering in his eyes. What now? He asked Maeve, casting a glance at the shadows that seemed eager to engulf us. That we wait, Maeve replied sharply, scanning the dimly lit corners of the room. Once we catch our breath, it'll fill you in. But for now, being here is better than out there. Better how? Richard's words snapped like a taut string. We don't even know who you are or if you're leading us into another trap. My heart palpitated with worry at Richard's evident hostility. Please, I urged, my voice trembling. Let's not fight now. We need each other. I reached for Richard's hand, squeezing it, hoping to quell the tension that threatened to unravel us further. Maeve's expression softened for the briefest moment. I get it. Trust doesn't come easy, especially when demons from the past loom. She paused for a breath, collecting her thoughts, her gaze drifting toward the boy at my side. But I promise, I'm not your enemy. What do you know about us? Richard pressed further, suspicion lacing his words. How can we believe you? There hung a thick silence, and I could feel the boy flinch at the hostility crackling in the air. Suddenly, Maeve stepped closer, her voice dropping to a softer pitch. I don't know everything, she admitted, her vulnerability oddly grounding. But I know those sirens will return, and I know that if they find you, especially him, she gestured at the boy, they won't show mercy. Fear prickled at my skin, an icy reminder of everything we'd fled from. What do you mean? I whispered, glancing down at the boy, who was staring up at Maeve with wide eyes. His innocence pierced my heart, igniting a fierce will to protect him. Your past isn't just your own, she replied, the weight of her words crashing over us. There are people who know about this boy. They want him for something sinister. This isn't an ordinary chase. That I swallowed hard, the realization crystallizing into something terrifying. What do you mean they want him? But Maeve stepped back, the shadows of the room shifting as her dark expression hardened once more. That's not important right now. We need to focus on keeping you all safe. With each passing second, my heart raced, and uncertainty rippled through our fragile sanctuary. The boy shifted beside me, sensing my disquiet, and I pulled him closer. The lingering fears twisted into a tight knot in my stomach. As we stood there, encased in uncertainty, the flickering lights inside the store dimmed for a moment, echoing our fragile hopes. Would we find a way to survive the encroaching darkness? Would we unveil the truth before it swallowed us whole? Just when I thought the weight of the world couldn't grow heavier, the door shuddered violently, sending a surge of fear rippling through our group. My heart dropped. I hadn't imagined how swiftly our sanctuary could crumble. Hide! Maeve commanded, her voice sharp and urgent, as the suspense hung thick in the air. Just as I dove behind an old display case with Richard and the boy, the door burst open, revealing a shadowy figure silhouetted against the night, a chilling smirk playing on their lips that filled me with dread. Found you. The voice dripped with malice, and as I stared into the face of our pursuer, I felt the ground beneath my feet tremble, my breath hitching as realization set in. The night had just begun. The dim light flickering overhead cast elongated shadows against the cracked walls, forming silhouettes that danced with trepidation. As the figure stepped fully into the room, I instinctively shielded the boy, my heart hammering with a primal instinct to protect. The malicious grin etched across the intruder's face twisted my stomach into knots. Who are you? I managed to choke out, trying to sound braver than I felt. My voice trembled despite my efforts and my mind raced, scrambling to piece together any knowledge I had about our pursuers. They call me Hunter, he replied, his eyes shimmering with a predatory glint. Each syllable dripped with confidence, as if he reveled in the fear that permeated the air. And you novelties, he gestured dismissively, are in quite the predicament. The weight of his presence suffocated the room, and I glanced nervously at Maeve, whose resolute demeanor had faltered. She shifted, her body tense, staring down Hunter with an intensity that made me wonder about her past encounters with him. You shouldn't be here, she managed to say, an underlying fury bubbling beneath her words. But fate has made it so, hasn't it? Hunter continued, as though enthralled by the dance of danger unfolding. You see, I've been following the trail of his little flame. He pointed a long finger towards the boy, and it led me directly to you. Quite convenient that ice-cold fear crept through my veins as my instincts screamed at me to flee. What do you want with him? I demanded, gathering all the courage I could muster. I could feel Richard's trembling form beside me, the boy's small frame shivering under the weight of their gaze. Hunter leaned in slightly, his smirk stretching wider, revealing teeth that seemed sharper than normal. Perhaps he'll enlighten you, my dear, he said mockingly. But first, let's have some fun. You see, I enjoy a good chase, and this time, it seems I'm the hunter, and you're my prey. Before I could react, Maeve lunged towards Hunter, a flash of fury igniting in her eyes. But he was quick, sidestepping her, and in one fluid motion, he shoved her to the ground. A sharp crack echoed in the silence as she hit the floor, the impact resonating painfully in my chest. Stay down. She gasped, clenching her jaw against the pain. Richard's breath hitched beside me, and I felt the urgency deep inside me swell to a near panic. We have to get out of here, I whispered frantically, looking for any possible exit while the very air around us felt charged with impending disaster. No, no, Hunter taunted, why would you want to leave? This is just the beginning of a beautiful reunion. I've been waiting for this moment, you know. Your little boy is special. His voice grew softer, almost conspiratorial, and I swore I saw a flicker of something darker behind those glimmering eyes. And you, sweet girl, he looked directly at me, you have a part to play too. That I swallowed thickly, my mind racing through the fragmented memories of my life, the fleeting moments that seemed inconsequential until now. What did he mean? I gripped the boy's shoulder tighter, willing him to be silent. The tension was palpable, heavy in the air like an impending storm. Despite the fear coursing through my veins, Maeve managed to rise, slowly. There was fire in her eyes, defiance sparking anew. You will not take him, she threatened, her voice low and fierce enough to challenge the chaos swirling around us. Hunter chuckled darkly. Oh, but Maeve, don't you see? He already belongs to me. And you, my dear, will only prolong the inevitable. Desperation clawed at my insides, and in a moment of clarity, I realized our surroundings could be our ally. My eyes darted around the dim store, scanning for anything that could aid our escape. The back, I whispered to Richard, nodding subtly toward a shadowy doorway behind some dusty crates that he nodded ever so slightly, hope flickering in his wide eyes. With stealth, I edged backward, ready to lead the boy away, but Maeve spoke up again, her voice laced with urgency. We're not done here. You don't know. The rest of her words were swallowed by the air as another ominous laugh erupted from Hunter. Oh, but we are. In a swift motion, he lunged forward, and as I backed toward the boys, my heart raced. I shoved the boy toward Richard. Run! I shouted, not knowing if we could truly escape, but trusting the pull of instinct. To my horror, Hunter swatted Maeve aside, gripping my arm in a vice-like grasp. You think you can just leave? He snarled, pressing his face close enough for me to smell the metallic tang of his breath. Caught between the shadows of despair and fleeting chances, I felt time paint heavy strokes of panic across my heart. Richard pulled the boy behind him, instinctively protective, urging him toward the back while I wrestled with Hunter, a mixture of fear and fierce love coursing through me. Just as I thought my struggling was futile, a glimmer of light broke through the grim Tenzion. A loud bang reverberated through the building, and suddenly the door we thought barricaded crashed open once again. Two figures emerged, quickly and shadowy against the backdrop of the fading dusk, and I was left lost in uncertainty once again. Let her go. One of them shouted, and a surge of hope ignited within me, even as dread lingered close by. As things blurred into chaotic movement, I caught a glimpse of Richard's small hand gripping the boys, both frightened yet resolute, waiting for my lead. My heart ached, knowing I couldn't afford to fail them now. Whatever was happening was far from over. And just like that, our fates collided with the night's unraveling secrets. The air thickened with tension as the newcomers breached the threshold, two silhouettes bursting into the room like breaking dawn. I had no clue who they were, but the possibility of their presence ignited a flicker of hope inside me. I could hardly breathe as I wrestled with Hunter's iron grip. Get back! Hunter barked, his voice laced with fury. The newcomers hesitated, scanning the scene, their eyes wide with shock. One of them, a man with unkempt hair and a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward, hands raised in a placating gesture. We're here to help. He shouted, his voice carrying a note of urgency that instantly hushed the chaos for the briefest moment. The other figure, a woman, wiry and fierce-looking, positioned herself protectively behind him, her eyes darting between Hunter and me. Hunter sneered, and I could feel his grip tightening, as if he meant to crush my resolve along with my arm. The fear radiating from Richard and the boy was palpable, their small frames trembling like 2 leaves caught in a gale. I cast a glance toward Maeve, who had regained her footing, her eyes blazing with determination as she edged closer to launch another attack. "Stand down," the man shouted again, tension coiling around us like a trapped snake ready to strike. "We only want the boy," and just like that, a new layer of fear settled over me. "Not without me," I exclaimed, clenching my teeth. The boy needed protecting, but temptation tugged at the edges of my mind. Could I trust these strangers? "Let's not make this any worse," the woman implored, her voice low but growling with strength. "You're outnumbered," Hunter's eyes sparked with madness. "Outnumbered?" he echoed, laughter spilling from his lips. "You've no idea the magnitude of what you're interrupting. This is my domain, and you simply don't belong here." But as he boasted, those words felt somehow empty. I sensed the truth was running out of options. Instinctively, I turned my attention to Richard and the boy, feeling a desperate need to reassure them. "We're going to be fine," I whispered, though my heart thudded loudly in my chest, betraying my facade. "Stay close to me," Richard murmured, pulling the boy in tighter as if to shield him from Hunter's wrath. A brave gesture, it made me swell with pride and fear simultaneously, the weight of responsibility crystallizing in my mind. Maeve took a calculated step forward. "He doesn't own us. This ends tonight," she declared. The conviction in her tone wove around us all, planting seeds of courage in the cracks of despair. An unsettling silence fell, the room suffocating beneath unspoken tension until Hunter unleashed his rage. "You think you can make me leave? My power extends beyond this room," he snarled, flinging an arm out as if to command the shadows themselves. The man and woman sprang into action. A brilliant flash of movement unfolded, and as Hunter was momentarily distracted, Maeve surged forward, aiming a well-placed punch at his jaw. To my astonishment, she connected, and Hunter staggered back, momentarily disoriented. "Now!" the man yelled, urging us towards the back exit as Maeve kept Hunter occupied. I took the boy's hand, my heartbeat drowning out the chaos, and urged Richard to follow. We raced toward the shadowy doorway, but just as we reached it, Hunter roared in anger, his voice echoing through the space with brutal vitality. "You can't escape!" A chill shot down my spine, and my breath caught in my throat. What if he caught us? Just as hope flickered to life, a sudden explosion of glass erupted nearby, scattering debris in every direction as one of the windows shattered. "Go! Now!" the woman's voice rang out sharply. I didn't need to be told twice. I propelled Richard and the boy through the opening, my heart racing. Once we were outside, the cool night air slapped my face like a much-needed revival. We stumbled into an alley cloaked in darkness, breathless, my mind racing to process what had surged from previous moments into this one. But the safety I craved felt distant, a mere illusion laced with the gnawing dread that awaited us. Richard's grip tightened on the boy's hand, his wide eyes gleaming with distress. "What now?" he questioned, his voice barely above a whisper, laced with uncertainty. That I quickly glanced back towards the entrance, my heart in despair. "We need to keep moving. We can't let him find us," I replied, my voice resolute even amidst the storm of anxiety raging within. But as I glanced over my shoulder, a figure emerged from the shadows of the doorway we just escaped. Hunter stood there, a predatory glimmer returning to his eyes. "You think this is over? You cannot outrun your destiny," he called out, voice chillingly calm. Richard shifted closer to the boy, instinctively shielding him with his small frame, but the threat was now starkly real. With a swift movement, Hunter raised his hand, and a flicker of light sizzled in the air around him, a terrible omen glimmering at the edges of my vision. As the sensation of impending doom washed over us, an unexpected thought pierced through the cloud of panic that had seized my mind. What if we could turn the tides? What if there was something more within the boy? Just as I formulated a plan, Hunter's smirk amplified with wicked delight, and I braced myself for whatever darkness lay ahead, knowing we were still tangled in the web of his ominous game. None of us would escape unscathed. The moon hung low, a solitary eye watching over the alley where chaos was now a palpable entity, clinging to my skin like sweat. My heart raced as Hunter's taunt echoed in my mind, each word twisting like a knife. You cannot outrun your destiny. But whose destiny was it, mine, Richard's, or the boy's? As I pulled Richard and the boy closer, I scanned the alley, desperate for a place to hide, a way to evade Hunter. The tension was so thick that I could almost taste it, bitter and metallic, a reminder of the danger close behind us. The walls of the alley loomed, jagged and dark, a prison of despair. We have to move, I urged, my voice barely above a whisper. Where? Richard gasped, panic turning his features pale. The boy, his small hand trembling in Richard's grasp, looked up at me with wide eyes filled with a mix of fear and wonder. Any direction but back, I replied, my instincts kicking in. Follow me. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. The air felt heavy, charged. Without thinking any further, I turned to the right and pressed forward, the shadows swallowing us whole. As we darted through the narrow passageway, the sounds of Hunter's pursuit crescendoed behind us, the frantic rhythm of hurried footsteps, raw and relentless, echoing like a predator's howl. Just as we turned another corner, an unexpected kindness caressed the edges of my turmoil. A stray cat, soft and dirty, slipped between our feet, purring, its tail flicking gently. For the briefest moment, the innocence of that creature drew an unexpected smile from my lips, a reminder of softer things in life amidst the storm. But then the sound of splintering wood shattered the moment. Hunter was close. The weight of worry settled on my chest like a stone. We need to stay quiet, I urged, my voice firm. The boy nodded but remained frozen, the gravity of the situation sinking into him with the weight of reality. I reached down, brushing his hair back from his forehead, trying to reassure him, while hope waned and flickered into something almost intangible. That we have to keep moving or hell find us, I whispered to Richard, who was scanning the alley, filled with determination but fear. Suddenly, Richard's eyes caught the glimmer of an old shop door slightly ajar. There. He pointed, desperation in his tone evident as he led the way, pulling the boy with him. Just as we neared, a rusted bell jingled overhead as we stumbled inside. The shop appeared to have been abandoned, its once bright shelves now cloaked in a dusty shroud. But within that decay existed pockets of warmth, a faded armchair, a few remnants of life lingering in the corners, small moments of solace in this violent tempest. Quick, hide, I urged, ushering them towards the farthest corner where crates stacked high formed a makeshift barrier. I squeezed in next to them, heart racing, listening to the thundering cadence of our breaths, a hidden symphony underscored by impending dread. As we crouched in silence, the sound of Hunter's footsteps pounding through the alley grew louder. My heart sank further as I strained to hear his threat, piercing the air like shards of glass. I know you're in there. You can only hide for so long. His voice was dangerously close, dangerously familiar, as if he relished the chase. Terror clawed at my throat, a desperate plea stirring inside me. The boy, sensing my fear, nestled into Richard's side, whose grip remained firm and protective. It's going to be okay, Richard whispered, but the tremor in his voice told a contrasting tale. I glanced toward the door, praying it would hold against Hunter's wrath, but the wood creaked, resisting, as if aware of the battle brewing outside. Information prickled at the back of my mind. Who were these newcomers? More importantly, what did they want with the boy? The clattering of Hunter's boots echoed outside, the atmosphere growing heavy with dread until unexpectedly doors shuddered violently. I pulled Richard and the boy closer, bracing for impact. Do you feel that? I asked, trying to pierce through the suffocating fear. The boy nodded solemnly, eyes wide, but instead of just fear, they twinkled with a flicker of something else. I had a fleeting thought. Could it be power? No. It can't be, I muttered, mind racing. The boy's secret, whatever it was, loomed larger than anything we faced. My heart raced as I explored that idea, hoping against hope that the answers lay within him. The door rattled again, a deep crack splitting its structure. "Your friend can't save you now. He's gone, just like the others." Hunter's voice slithered into the room with venom. I clenched my fists, anger building as I contemplated our next move. It was then that Richard turned to the boy with urgency. "Can you do anything, kid?" The boy's eyes flickered as if something vast swirled behind them, a tempest of unknown potential. "Two don't know. It's just so loud," he whispered, confusion clouding his face. Before I could respond, the door buckled under a renewed assault. In that moment, with Hunter's maddening laughter reverberating through the air and hope dwindling, a new fear struck, a realization that I might not truly know the depths of the boy's spirit. As the door groaned, threatening to give way, I wondered if unlocking his hidden power would be our only salvation, or if it would stand as a beacon for Hunter to seize upon. Each moment stretched like a taut string, pain gathering as threads of my resolve threatened to fray. We were on the brink of something monumental, and as the door splintered, that truth settled on my heart like a heavy shroud. The stakes had never been higher. Would we find hope in the darkness, or would Hunter consume us all? As I remained at the precipice of dread and determination, one aching thought remained: if the boy carried the key to our fate, would he be willing to unlock that door? With a rush, the door burst open, and in the frame stood Hunter, an ominous silhouette against the dim light, victory etched in his stance, leaving us spiraling into the depths of an unknown reckoning. The final moments before confrontation hung in the air like a solemn promise. The door shattered under the force of Hunter's determination, sending splinters flying into the air like jagged stars against the morning gloom. I steeled myself as his predatory gaze swept over us, the cruel smirk on his face unveiling a world of sinister intentions. My heart thundered in my chest, pounding out a frantic rhythm of panic and fear. "Look at you all, huddled together like desperate little mice," he sneered, reveling in the power he held over us. But deep inside this fear, a flicker of resolve ignited. I would not let him diminish our spirit. "Stay behind me," I whispered urgently to Richard and the boy, who clutched each other tightly. Their faces were pale, but determination glinted in Richard's eyes, and I could feel the electricity of unspoken bravery coursing through us. Hunter stepped into the dim light of the room, radiating malice and intent. The uncertainty of escape weighed heavily in the air, and I struggled to find a way out of this hellish encounter. "You think you can hide from me? You're part of this game now, and I intend to win," he taunted, his voice coiling around me like a serpent. The boy shivered against Richard. "What does he want?" he murmured, innocence clinging to his every word. In that moment, it struck me as purity could hold the key to unraveling this nightmare. I glanced at him, warmth pooling in my chest, a spark of hope shaping my path forward. "Listen to me, we have to trust in each other," I said, the words flowing forth like a prayer, the tremendous weight of responsibility pressing down on my shoulders. "No matter what happens, we stick together. We're stronger that way." My voice wavered slightly, but beneath it surged a tide of determination crafted from pain and longing to protect them. Hunter took another step forward, anger radiating off his body like heat from a fire. "You're sentimental, aren't you?" he said contemptuously. "But let's see how long that lasts when I've taken what's precious." Before I could respond, a loud stomp echoed from behind him. The woman from before, Maeve, emerged from the shadows like a phoenix reborn. "You're not going to lay a finger on them, Hunter," she shouted, her voice unwavering. The electricity in the air surged as Maeve moved with purpose, her determination radiating outwards. It was clear that she was ready to protect us at all costs. I momentarily glanced at Richard and the boy, their eyes wide with hope and fear united in an unspoken bond that thrummed with resilience. "Get out of the way," Hunter shouted, his confidence wavering slightly as Maeve approached him with fierce intent. It was a pivotal moment, one that hung in the balance between darkness and light. This battle was not just for our survival, it encompassed more: the love we cast, the passions we protected, all woven into the fabric of our shared spirit. "That I won't let you take them," Maeve reiterated, charging toward Hunter with fierce resolve. In the flicker of combat, I felt the urge to stand by her side, to make our stand together a united front against the darkness encroaching upon our lives. I urged Richard and the boy behind me, my heart racing like wildfire, wondering what would unfold, but in the blink of an eye, Hunter deflected Maeve's charge with a swift movement, sending her sprawling back into the wreckage of what once was a bright storefront. The crack of her fall reverberated deeply within me, a stark reminder of the stakes at play. "Foolish girl," Hunter spat. "You really thought you could stand against me?" His gaze turned back to us, the malice cutting deeper. "Now, shall we begin?" My instincts flared again, feeding off the consequences and fear swirling around us. "We are not your playthings," I shouted, voice rising defiantly. With resolve surging through me, I grabbed Richard and the boy's hands tighter. "We will fight. You do not scare us, Hunter. We're stronger than you think." A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, as if my declaration had struck a stronger chord than anticipated. In this precarious standoff, my heart flooded with courage, a brush against magic that shimmered in the air. Pushing me forward into a space of uncertainty, yet filled with a fierce desire to protect those I loved, together. I shouted, the word rippling through the air, igniting the bond we shared. Richard nodded firmly beside me, the boy's small hand steady in his. Hunter sneered, but I saw the glint of rage clash against uncertainty. Each moment seemed to stretch, time warping. The room pulsed with energy, the shadows morphed as if breathing around us, waiting for one final act to unleash the darkness that threatened our freedom, and then the boy spoke, softly yet unyielding, "You want take me. I'm not alone." A strange current flowed in those words, reverberating against the darkness, a power I could feel rising within him, growing as if awakening from dormancy. Hunter's eyes widened as reality shifted like sand. I watched, breathless, as the boy's energy enveloped us, the warmth blooming from his small frame, his innocence transforming into something much more visceral, tangible. "Filthy child." Hunter spat, regaining his composure. But the boy's resolve remained unyielded, a beacon shining against the shadows. "Together," Richard echoed, holding the boy's hand like a lifeline as the energy pulsed between us, forging a barrier against Hunter's darkness. "That we will face you," I affirmed, stepping forward alongside Richard, the boy held safely between us. "You will not win." Hunter's countenance distorted in rage as the atmosphere crackled with the energy of our united front. "Enough of this madness," he bellowed, extending his arm toward us, his powers surging deeply, desperate in the face of our coalition. "I will end you." Suddenly, the boy allowed the energy to cathartically erupt. Raw, unchecked power flowed forth, forming a protective barrier that shimmered with light, refracting against the shadows that threatened to consume us. The intensity spun around us, illuminating our surroundings like a flame in the cold night. The collision was tremendous, my ears rang, the air quaking as the forces met in spectacular conflict. Light met the darkness, battling for supremacy, and time stood still in that moment, encompassing everything I had fought for, the love shared, sacrifices made, determination crystal clear. In the final clash, I watched as Hunter faltered, his shadow expanding then retracting, uncertainty dawning on his features. And in that pivotal heartbeat, the moment where past traumas, longings for connection, and familial love entwined, we unleashed the true essence of our strength, a bond irrepressible. "Together," Maeve shouted from the background, rallying her stamina with undeniable fervor, surging at Hunter determinedly. And just like that, the shadows fractured, fading into the brilliance of the boy's courage, as the protective force surrounding us struck forth. As everything wrapped into a blinding white light, I felt one last surge of resolve wash through Melove, enveloped us, binding our fates together against that which threatened to tear us apart, and at that moment, I knew that no matter what unfolded from here, we had made our choice. In the beauty of our bonds, we could rewrite our destinies, embracing forgiveness, acceptance, and love. As the light enveloped us entirely, I closed my eyes, feeling hope blossom within me. "Together," I whispered one last time, this word resonating deep within me. We were meant to face whatever awaited, trusting in the power of our shared spirits to lead us forward, and beyond the horizon, a new dawn awaited us.